Good evening and welcome to Yuvavani on All India Radio, where we discuss issues that matter to young people today. I'm your host Sinchanaa. Today's topic is one that many young professionals, students, and even parents have been talking about. Why are young people quitting their jobs early? Not too long ago, staying with the same organization for years was considered a sign of commitment and success. Today, however, it is increasingly common to hear of someone leaving a job after a year, 6 months, or sometimes even less. Some see this as confidence and self awareness, others see it as impatience. So, what is really happening? Are young people redefining success or are they giving up too soon? To explore this question, I'm joined by Anagha, Poorvi, and Malavika. We are final year students from the Department of Communication Studies at Mount Carmel deemed to be University. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sinchanaa. It's great to be here.
Thank you for having us.
I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Let's begin with a simple question. When you hear that someone has quit their job within a year of joining, what is your first reaction?
My first reaction is curiosity rather than judgment. I want to know why they left. For a long time, we were taught that staying in a job, no matter what, was a sign of dedication. But I think now young people are questioning that idea. If a role is clearly not helping them grow or it's affecting their well-being, leaving may actually be a responsible decision.
I agree that we shouldn't judge immediately. But at the same time, I think there is a tendency to celebrate every resignation as though it is automatically a brave choice. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Building a career requires practice, and not every difficult experience is a sign that it's time to leave.
I think both of those points are important. The act of leaving itself doesn't tell us much. What matters is the reason behind it. Someone leaving a toxic environment is very different from someone leaving because they expected instant success and recognition.
That's a useful distinction. So, why do you think this trend has become more common among young people today?
I think one reason is that our relationship with work has changed. Many young people no longer see work as the center of their identity. They want a career, certainly, but they also value mental health, personal interests, family life, and flexibility. The pandemic, I think, has accelerated this shift. It made people rethink what they wanted from life and from work. Many realized that a salary alone wasn't enough if they felt exhausted or unhappy every day.
I think that's true, but I would also add that social media has influenced expectations. We are constantly exposed to stories of people who appear to have achieved extraordinary success at a very young age. You see someone who left a corporate job to start a business or become a content creator, and it can create the impression that traditional career paths are somehow less meaningful. What we don't always see are the years of uncertainty and effort behind those success stories.
I think another factor is that the labor market itself has changed. Previous generations often expected long-term stability from employers. Today, job security is less certain in industries. As a result, young employees sometimes feel less obligation to remain loyal to an organization if they don't feel valued in return.
So, in a sense, both employers and employees have changed their expectations.
Exactly. The relationship is different from what it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Okay, let's talk about situations where leaving might actually be the right decision.
I think one clear example is when a workplace is damaging someone's well-being. If a person is constantly stressed, unsupported, or unable to grow, staying indefinitely isn't necessarily a virtue. I know someone who worked in a role that looked excellent on paper. The salary was good and this company was also very well known, but he felt increasingly disconnected from the work and began experience significant stress. And eventually he decided to leave and pursue a field he had always been passionate about. It wasn't an easy transition per se, but today he feels far more fulfilled. And what stands out to me is that his decision wasn't impulsive. It came after careful discussion and reflection.
And I think reflection is the key point. I completely support people leaving unhealthy environments. But what concerns me is when people live without fully understanding what the problem is. Sometimes the issue is the workplace. Sometimes it's simply the challenge of adapting to a new professional environment. Those situations require different responses.
I agree. Before making any major career decisions, it's important to ask, am I moving away from something or am I moving towards something? The answer can tell you a great deal about whether the decision is strategic or emotional.
Many young people today are also exploring alternatives to traditional employment. Freelancing, entrepreneurship, content creation, consulting, the possibilities seem endless. Do you think these alternatives are encouraging people to leave conventional jobs earlier?
In some cases, yes. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. The digital economy has created opportunities that simply didn't exist before. Young people can build businesses, work independently, or reach these global audiences from their own homes. These options are real and should be taken seriously.
I agree they should be taken seriously, but they should also be approached realistically. For every successful entrepreneur we hear about, there are many others who struggle or fail. That's not a reason to avoid taking risks, but it is a reason to prepare carefully. A dream becomes much more achievable when it's supported by planning and practical experience.
Exactly. I recently read about a designer who spent several years freelancing alongside her full-time job. By the time she resigned, she had built a portfolio, developed a client base, and saved enough money to support herself during the transition. That approach strikes me as a model worth living for. She didn't leave first and figure things out later, but she built a foundation before making the leap.
So, this conversation often leads to comparisons between generations. Many parents say, we stayed in jobs even when things were difficult. Is that a fair comparison?
I think it's a partly fair comparison. There is value in perseverance. Learning to work through challenges can help people develop resilience and professional maturity. Sometimes growth comes from staying long enough to overcome difficulties rather than immediately seeking an alternative.
I agree with that. However, I think we also need to recognize that the world of work has changed. Young people today are entering a very different economy. The opportunities, pressures, and expectations are not the same as they were in previous generations. As a result, it makes sense that career decisions may also look different.
Perhaps the lesson we can take from older generations isn't necessarily that people should stay in one place forever, but instead it's the idea of commitment, being willing to invest time and effort in something meaningful. That principle remains valuable regardless of how many jobs a person has throughout their career.
Let's broaden the discussion. How do different groups view this trend?
Many young workers see it as a matter of choice and agency. They want careers that align with their values and goals.
On the other hand, many parents and senior professionals worry that frequent job changes may limit long-term growth. They often see patience as an important professional skill.
Employers themselves have mixed views. Some organizations recognize that high turnover may indicate deeper issues within the workplace. Others focus primarily on the costs associated with employees leaving. Mental health professionals, meanwhile, often emphasize the importance of leaving environments that are genuinely harmful.
We've discussed personal goals and career expectations, but many surveys suggest that workplace culture has a major impact on whether employees stay or leave. How significant is that factor?
I think it's extremely significant. Young employees are often willing to work hard and accept challenges, but they also want to feel respected. A supportive workplace can make demanding work feel meaningful, while a negative environment can make even a good job difficult to sustain.
I agree. People often assume that salary is the main reason employees leave, but workplace relationships matter just as much. Good managers provide guidance, feedback, and encouragement. When employees feel ignored or undervalued, dissatisfaction grows over time.
Communication is also important. Many young professionals want opportunities to contribute ideas and participate in decision making. Organizations that encourage dialogue often build stronger trust and retain employees more efficiently.
Another term that appears frequently in discussions about modern work is burnout. How much of a role does burnout play in early resignations?
Burnout is a major factor. Constant pressure, long working hours, and the expectation to always be available can eventually affect both mental and physical well-being. When people reach that point, leaving may be the only option.
What is important to remember is that burnout doesn't only happen to people who dislike their jobs. Even highly motivated employees can experience exhaustion if they don't have enough balance or support.
Exactly. Sustainable success requires sustainability in daily life. Companies are increasingly recognizing that employee well being is not separate from productivity, but it contributes directly to long term performances.
Do you think young people sometimes feel pressured to find the perfect job immediately after graduation?
Absolutely. Social media often creates the impression that successful people discover their ideal career very early. In reality, most careers evolve through experimentation, learning, and gradual growth.
I think that's an important point. Every role teaches valuable skill, even if it isn't someone's dream job. Professional confidence develops through experience, and that process takes time.
Sometimes a job's greatest value lies in what it teaches us rather than how long we stay. Different experiences help people understand their strengths, interests, and long term goals.
It seems you are talking about finding a balance between ambition and patience. How can young professionals achieve this balance?
I think by remaining ambitious while also recognizing that meaningful growth rarely happens overnight. Progress often comes from consistently developing skills and gaining experience.
I would add that patience shouldn't mean accepting unhealthy situations. The goal is to distinguish between temporary challenges that promote growth and deeper issues that require change.
Exactly. Career decisions are strongest when they combine self awareness, preparation, and long term thinking. Whether someone stays or leaves, the decision should support their future rather than simply provide short term relief.
Thank you, everyone. What today's discussion has shown is that there is no simple answer to this question. Leaving a job early is not automatically a sign of courage, nor it is automatically a sign of impatience. The real issue lies in the reason behind the decision. A thoughtful move towards a better opportunity is very different from a decision made without preparation or direction. Perhaps the most important lesson is that careers are not simply about staying or leaving. They are about understanding yourself, recognizing your goals, and making choices that support your long term growth. Thank you, Anagha, Poorvi, and Malavika, for sharing their perspectives today, and thank you to our listeners for joining us. You've been listening to Yuvavani on All India Radio.